Good morning, everybody, and welcome to January's 2018. This is actually the 2018 very first member exclusive webinar of the year, it's very excited to have everybody here. We're talking about successful home shows, kind of how to run them and do them, and we're going to add a little bit. So I've done a similar type presentation to this in the past, but we're going to add a little bit to it. Some of it may be review for some of you. Some of it you may run across some new things. It's going to be a little bit of both, suggestions for people working the booth in this one, and also a little bit of information for owners and managers on just some suggestions that we have in terms of who should be working the booth and how to pay them and that type of thing. Before I start, of course, I always want to say thank you. It is definitely an honor to be able to serve you in this way, and as most of you know, that it's my goal always, anytime I give a presentation, to make sure that the information that I give to you is at least as valuable as the time that you're giving to me. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you very, very, very much. Hey, let's talk about home shows. So here's the thing. I don't know how many of you have been to home shows, or it's kind of, they're all kind of the same thing. Home shows or they're similar, like boat shows or the RV shows, or they have these big arenas, these big places, these big huge buildings. But the home shows, they usually have booths, 10 by 10 or 10 by 20, or sometimes if they're like home and landscaping shows, you'll see these humongous sections inside this building where these landscaping companies will come and they'll okay, good morning. That was Matt, I think we can hear you and see you. You don't have to have your camera on. You can turn it off. Anyway, they'll sometimes build these humongous displays in these landscaping shows. The first time I ever did those, went to like a home show where they had landscaping or whatever. It was in the arena where the Detroit Lions play, and it was unbelievable how big these landscaping exhibits were. I couldn't believe it. So so anyway, I think a lot of times when people decide they're going to do these things, what they do is, it's a Saturday morning. A lot of these home shows go from Friday to Sunday, for the weekends. Sometimes they're longer, especially if it's a fair during the summertime or whatever. But I think what ends up happening is people, the Saturday morning, it's kind of like a lot of times these shows start around January, and maybe it's a little nasty outside and kind of cold, and so they go, oh, I got this great idea. Let's load up the kids and let's drive 40 minutes and let's go to the home show wherever it's at, and this will be a fun thing to do. And we're kind of looking at maybe doing some stuff around the house. Maybe we have to remodel our bathroom, or we're just trying to get some ideas. So let's load up the kids and let's go. And okay, so you drive 35, 40 minutes and you get to the place, and then you park, and then you go in, and you gotta pay to get in, and the very first thing they do is hand you this bank bag, or somebody that sponsored this plastic bag, and you start walking around, and you start on one end of it, and the kids, I'm not so sure why kids aren't totally excited about going to this kind of they call it like a home fair, like a home improvement fair. Kids go, woo, we're going to a fair, except it's not really a fair for a kid. That's not that exciting, right? So they go through, do you go to the left? Do you start at the 100 aisle, or do you start at the 1600 aisle? Because 16 rows of people, and it is kind of like a carnival where you're walking by and people, hey, let me guess your weight. Hey, except it's not guess your weight or throw the darts at the balloons. It's hey, let me straighten your spine. Hey, can I ask you a question about this? And you have all these people out there like standing in front. It's exhausting by the time you even get through. Let's say you start at the 100 aisle. By the time you get to the end, it's exhausting. especially if you've actually stopped and talked to a couple people, because everything is sales. But you go through, and at the end of the first aisle, the kids are antsy, so you make your way over and you get them some nachos. And then you go down through the second aisle, and by this time you've got so many pins and papers and maybe a couple brochures that you're interested in that bank bag. Maybe definitely some cool gadgets. You have some golf tees and some potato chip clip holders and tons of ink pens. Even by like the fourth aisle, you've got ink pens enough to supply the kids the entire year at school. And I mean, there's some really cool stuff. You've got one of those little multi-tool plastic things that has a Phillips screwdriver and a regular screwdriver and a flashlight, an LED flashlight that you could put on your key ring in case it's dark and you can't find the keyhole when you're putting your keys in the door when you get home. I mean, there's some cool little gadgets, right? And you've gone through the fourth aisle and the kids are done with their nachos, but they're kind of antsy, so you get them some ice cream. And then you go on down, and it's the same thing constantly. Now your bag's getting really heavy, and everybody wants to sell you something. Everybody wants you to look at their widget or their gadget. You've got that one guy who has the ShamWows. He takes the thing and he pours a can of Coke in a glass and puts a ShamWow towel in there, and it's normally they're $20, but at the show special you get 2 of those ShamWows for $20, 2 for the price of 1, which is, I mean, how can you say no when it had absorbed the entire cup of Coke? It took the whole thing and just put it right into the towel. It was amazing. And in case you have cats and they have hair all over the carpet, you've got that thing that like, you can rub it on the carpet and it just pulls the cat hair right up. I mean, the guy had cat hair on the carpet at the show, and he's got the mic around his head, and he's showing you, look how easy it is to get the cat hair up on this little section of carpet. And you're going, oh, I have cats, and sure, I'll use that. And what? I get 2 for the price of 1 for those 2? Why, I have to have 2 of them because Christmas gifts or something. I mean, there's got to be 2. And wow, let's just sit down here for a second and look at this cooking on this really cool, on these dishes. And okay, that's kind of neat. Wow, $1,500 for 2 pots. Okay, well, now you're down at the end of aisle 9, and the kids, they've already had ice cream and nachos, and you can't really understand why they're hyper. I mean, and bored off their gourds, really, how can they not be enjoying this? And so you get them a pretzel because, this is the home show. Anyway, everybody's irritable by the time you get to 16, right? If you even make it to 16, and nobody feels like cooking dinner. And so you and your wife decide, or you and your husband, depending on who you went with, you decide to stop and grab something to eat. By the time you get home, man, it's late and everybody's tired, and that bag full of all those brochures, some of which you actually decided, that you were actually interested in going through. Some of them, you're actually interested in going through some of that stuff. But for the most part, that bag just goes right on the kitchen counter, and it sits there. And then the kids got a shower and they get it ready for bed, and then the next day you get up and you go to church, and it's a nice day out, and you got yard work and stuff to do outside. And then the next day is school, and then the next day is school and work and school and work and school and work, and the bag just sitting there on that kitchen counter for, till Friday. And, oh, we have guests coming on Friday. And so you take the bag. There's really no time to go through it. Now I'm sick of staring at this bag bulging with stuff sitting on the kitchen counter. We just got to get it off of there. You know what? We don't have time. So you take the bag, you dump it out on the kitchen table, you separate all the cool gadgets, some of which you're like, seriously, why did I even pick that up? And then you take that. Are we ever going to use this kind of a pencil eraser with a logo on it? Probably not. And then, so you take that, you take the brochures, and if you're environmentally conscious, you throw these brochures in the recycling bin. A lot of them just go straight in trash, which means that, hey, we contributed to landfills, so yay for us. And then that's it. That's what happens. That's, maybe there was a business card somewhere that you kept and put out. Maybe you kept some of the potato chip clip bags, but if somebody put a gun to your head and asked you, quick, tell me one of the companies that you kept the potato chip clip bag, potato ship, bag, clip, say that really fast a lot of times. You know, you wouldn't be able to do it. You couldn't list it. So how do we make it different? How do we make us the one different booth and then all the people? I mean, there's what? 30 or 40 different in each row, maybe even more than that because you got both sides, right? So let's say 50 booths in the show on every aisle. So there's a couple hundred companies out there selling their products and services at these shows. How do you make your company stand out amongst them? Well, by gum, that's why we're doing this class. Gum. Sorry for the harsh language there, you guys. I'm in rare form today, and sometimes you just gotta say by gum. There's not another word that will do it. So what types of shows do we do? They each have their different merits, and they each do different things. They each, you got to kind of prepare for them a little bit differently. Health and fitness shows. I was talking to a couple of people about these before. Those of you who have known me for a long time know that I have a love-hate relationship with these health and fitness shows because they can be really good. I mean, there are a certain number of people who are, they're just, they know that water is important. They understand maybe it's skin health and you're talking water softeners, but, you're talking about reverse osmosis or drinking water or whatever. The health and fitness shows can be really good, except that half the people that come, there are no shows that draw out the fruitcakes more than the health and fitness show. If you missed the podcast on the raw water thing that I did a couple of weeks ago, it's online. It's up online. You can listen to it on iTunes or whatever from the weekly MV Pro call we do. If you missed that one, we talked a little bit about the raw water. These are the shows that draw these people out. Okay, they're the ones who went to the Amway convention, and they're the ones who are all on the alkalinity water craze, and they're the ones that think that raw water straight from the ground that hasn't been filtered or sanitized in any way is going to be good. They're the ones that think that water has memory and just all the stuff. So half the people who go, be prepared to have somebody step into your booth and want to convince you how much of a demon you are for promoting reverse osmosis water. It draws them out of the woodwork. You cannot waste your time at these shows arguing with somebody that don't confuse me with facts. I don't need your facts. I have a brochure. And so, don't spend your time arguing with them. Just say, that's really interesting. Do you have a number or a card or something? I'd love to follow up with you on this and get their number or whatever, and then focus on the people that are actually coming and interested in what you have. Home and garden shows are obviously one of the biggest and most common type shows that we do. The home and garden shows are the home landscaping shows. And the thing with these home and garden shows, though, are that, expect to be not only one of, 500 exhibitors in a lot of cases, but unless they're some of the smaller, more local shows, which I love, I actually prefer those as opposed to the really huge gargantuan ones where people drive 50 or 60 miles from, or 100 miles from all around to go to the show. I like the small local ones. They're just smaller and easier to handle, and people seem to be more qualified for, I've always found. But you got to do the big ones too. But keep in mind, you're probably going to be one of 5 or 6 or more water treatment companies, not to mention all these other companies, hundreds of them, selling their products or services. One of the things about the builder shows, keep in mind that builders don't actually participate in builder shows usually. Builder shows are the people who participate in the builder shows are the ones who want to work with builders. So keep that in mind, that builder shows are the ones that builders come to try and figure out which vendors they're going to use. So you're there exhibiting to the builders. They're good shows to do, but you're not going to get a lot of immediate business out of a builder show. It's a way to introduce yourself to some of these builders and to get involved. Also be prepared, because the builders are going to be coming through, or the Home Builders Association and all the places that are, they're going to be coming through every booth trying to get you to sign up for golf outings and to sponsor things for the Home Builders Association and all of that stuff. Fairs are a different breed too. Fairs are long. They're sometimes, 7 or 10 days. Sometimes they're outside. Usually they're in a pavilion somewhere. Fairs have to be worked a lot differently. They do require usually somebody to be there, but during the day, a lot of times when it's hot, well, sometimes they're not even air conditioned and it's dirty. People don't go to the fair typically to shop for water treatment or home improvement stuff. A lot of times, if you're inside, if you're in a pavilion, people come in to go to get out of the hot sun. There are exceptions to this. I worked at the Iowa State Fair this last summer with a client, and that was kind of an exception. I think that a lot of people did come to that fair so that the home show, the exhibits that they had were, I think people did come in some cases specifically for that one. But a lot of times the exhibits at the fair are just inside, and the only people who walk by are people that are killing time while their kids are off riding the rides, or while they're, the hour or two right before the demolition derby starts, they'll get out of the, out of the heat and into the air conditioning and kind of walk through the exhibits. So you got to remember that there are long hours, and people are not coming to the fair to buy water treatment or anything else there. However, when you do have an opportunity to talk to somebody at a fair, when they do stop, they're really usually qualified. I mean, think about where fairs are often held. People who go to fairs a lot of times are, and this isn't always the case, but people who will go to a fair are usually, it's in a rural area. And so a lot of the people who go to the county fairs especially, they're the people that are buying water treatment. They're on rural water. So it does make sense to take a look at fairs. They are time sucks, though. They take a lot of your time. You got to work them, and don't expect to have people come. I used to, at the Fowlerville Fair, when I was in sales, I mean, nobody else wanted to do the Fowlerville Fair, even though it was all in Livingston County, but Fowlerville was my sales territory. So I did. I went and sat at the fair, and I did get a lot of data entry. I had time to make phone calls during the day. There were an hour and a half would go by before a single person came by the booth. So I did send emails or make phone calls or get some office, quote unquote, work done when I was at the fair. Although I will tell you, places, for example, like at the Iowa State Fair, there was no time to get any of that done. It was, a state fair like that is gigantic. I mean, it was crazy busy. I mean, tons of people coming through. So there was just no time to not do it. But home improvement shows are a lot like the home and garden shows. They're good. Mall shows, it's the same thing. Nobody goes to the mall to buy water treatment. So it is good to have, sometimes I know a lot of companies that have kiosks in the mall, like in the center. They'll have a booth in the mall or to do a mall show. You cannot, the one thing about like fairs and the mall, and really all of them, but some of these in particular that you're looking at, is that you're not going to sell water treatment at that show. There's no way you are selling water treatment. Nobody is going to, especially most of the people I'm looking at the names on this call, most of you are higher quality softeners and drinking water systems. You're not out of the garage box store equipment. People aren't going to the mall to buy your top of the line water treatment equipment. What they will do at the mall is be interested in information or knowledge that you have, and we're going to talk more about that here in a little bit. Water clinics, I frankly believe I save the best for last. I love water clinics when you can get them set up. They are a no-brainer. I have lots of pictures, and we're not going to talk a lot. I mean, water clinics by themselves is almost a whole webinar, and we have, in fact, talked about doing water clinics. But water clinics are excellent. I have some pictures of water clinics here in a little bit that I'll show you. In fact, I think the next couple slides are some that we did. What I will say about water clinics is this is a home show that it's essentially a home show that you can set up where there's no other people around, where you are the only water treatment company there. and you're not competing with the guy with the ShamWows or the cooking guy or the back straightening spine guy or any of those people. It's just you, and it's so easy to set up. In fact, yeah, here's a picture of one, okay? This is one I did when I was at Clearwater Systems Connecticut as sales manager. So we basically, this cost us, this was just a little strip plaza, a little, just a little shopping plaza, Hamburg Village. And this happened to be right around the time the media had done a lot for us in terms of, they had just lowered the standards for arsenic and from 50 parts per billion to 10 parts per billion, and it was all over in the paper and everything. So we had a banner made up. The banner cost, I think this particular banner, it's two-sided. It cost us a couple $100. Now, there's a couple things with the banner. When you're doing these things, if you're getting a banner made, and I think I have some other pictures of banners and other things here in a little bit, but up top here, if you're getting a banner made of any type, I usually recommend putting a loop on the top here where you can run a dowel across, because see how this thing droops? The other thing that this banner did not have, this banner got tore up pretty quickly. This banner did not have wind slits in it, and so if you leave it out there, then the wind will catch it. The other thing that we did is, how this says today, okay? That word today is actually Velcroed on there. There are Velcro strips all along the bottom. So we had these letters that would stick on, so we could say Saturday and we would put 10 to 4 on there, or we could change that up. So we Velcroed the dates and times down on the bottom so that it was there. And this was two-sided, and we hung it up. Over off to the left there was a really busy road. I will tell you, on this day, here's what it cost us to do this. So a couple $100 for the banner, cost us $100 for the canopy. We had a little bit of water over here, bottled water that we were giving away. And we printed off some flyers to put in all the stores in this plaza. We printed off some flyers, just photocopied. I mean, we just made up a little flyer and photocopied them. They were just half sheets, so there was 2 per page, and we put stacks of them out at all the counters on all of these places, and we hung the banner out here. This day, look at this, and this was our water clinic, our home show at this. And you see this plaza back there, okay? Look how busy we were. People, for 4 hours, we did this for 4 hours. We had over 120 people come to that arsenic testing that day, and we sold 12 ROs out of it and 5 additional units, 17 units we sold out of this one day, out of these people eventually that we did on this. Now, we did not sell any of these at this water testing, at this arsenic testing. We didn't sell any of them there. What we did was we tested for arsenic, and it was awesome actually when we had somebody. The arsenic test we were using takes 12 minutes to do, and so we'd test for arsenic, and some people would wait and some people wouldn't wait, but because there was a steady run of people coming in looking for arsenic testing here, because there was a steady run of it, sometimes we'd tell people, look, this is a health related thing. We're not going to, I don't want to, we have a vested interest in selling you something. So if there's, if we run across arsenic here, then we're going to recommend that you go somewhere and have it verified through an independent lab. If we come up negative on the test here, then we feel pretty confident the tests are accurate. What was awesome about it is when we had 2 or 3 people in a row that didn't have arsenic, we can say, oh good, you're clear on your arsenic. Then the next person that came up, if they did have an arsenic, it added a lot of credibility to it. We were actually able to go out for a lot of these, especially when people, this is how we were able to get in home. People would not, they didn't, even though we had in the instructions on the flyer to bring us a big bottle of water, at least 20 ounces to test for this thing. A lot of times they'd bring us just a little bottle, or they'd bring us a sample of water that was in a orange juice bottle, which throws the sample off because of the citric acid, the residual and stuff like that. So it would give us a reason to get over and test their water at their house. If you want, I can swing out there and check the water. We did not sell a single piece of equipment at this water clinic. What we did though is we set tons of appointments. I mean, it seemed like every person that came through, we were able to get an appointment, and we were busy off this water clinic, excuse me, for a couple of weeks after being able to go follow up on these tests. A lot of these people, they saw the flyers, but we did not advertise in the paper. We didn't advertise in the radio. Mostly, we were busiest, in fact. So the water clinic went from 10 to 2. We were busiest after the first couple hours because people drove by, saw the banner, went home, got water, and brought it back to us. Okay. Going back to, and we can talk more about water clinics. I actually have some pictures I'm going to show at the end of this webinar from some other booths that we've set up for other clients that we've done since then. And we'll talk a little bit more about these, but I want to move on a little bit here. And by the way, everybody is muted, but if somebody has a question, you can unmute yourself or just raise your hand or send a chat in, and we can, I'll try not to miss it. Best way, because I don't always see the chats down there, the best way is to, well, Jen's on, so Jen can kind of monitor those, but just unmute yourself and pop in and give a question if you have to. Okay. So what do you put in the booth? So I used to be responsible for setting up the booth. You'll see on the pictures, on most of the pictures that we have, I'm not a big fan of putting a ton of equipment. I think one water softener and one reverse osmosis system is ideal. I mean, you know, they know what you do. When you walk by, when I first came into the industry and was responsible for setting up the booth, we took every model of every softener we had. Oh my God, was it a pain in the butt. I mean, these aren't valves on, these are just tanks, you know, it shows this clip art image, but this is kind of what it looked like for us. I mean, it was such a pain in the butt to set up those booths. We had 10 by 20 foot booths, and we had so much equipment in there, and I was responsible for setting it up and tearing it down, and it was just a, man, it was a pain in the butt, all those things did. So, you know, I think one softener, one RO, and an RO especially because you can show the size of it. You know, that's designed to fit underneath the sink. You can, and people a lot of times, I mean, they're familiar with water softeners usually. ROs, not so much, you know, and you can tell them you have different sizes, and it gives you a reason to tell them that the different sizes, you know, they're customized for each home. I mean, if you put them, you know, you say, well, you know, there are some bigger and some smaller, and what we need to do is do a plumbing assessment and see which one works for you. So we need to get out to the house. So what type of equipment? Like I said, just a softener and an RO. Literature is one. If you find the person at your office that's responsible for ordering literature, and they will tell you that even the cheap brochures they cost a lot of money. I mean, you know, the big bifolds and trifolds and stuff like that you get, those things can cost $1.50, $2 or more for one brochure. And so if you set those things out, especially if you have some little gadget giveaway to get with it there, if you set those things out, people are going to come by and grab one of everything. I mean, they can take like $5 or $6. Every person can take $5 or $6 out of a booth. It amazes me sometimes when I see all this literature, and you walk by and you see that bank bag that has all those brochures. Every bag that goes home and sits on the counter, it can be upwards of $100+ in literature that never gets read. It just gets thrown away. That stuff is so expensive. And it just doesn't make any sense because nobody in the history of anything ever has ever made a purchasing decision strictly on a brochure. And I just don't believe that. Okay, I can't say ever, that's an absolute, so possibly somebody looked at the brochure, but I'm telling you, if you take 5 brochures, in the water treatment industry only, you take 5 different companies, okay, every single one of you, I'm looking at the list of people that are on here, and I see that there are tons of different manufacturers represented on listening in on this call right now. I can tell you, though, it doesn't matter which one you take your, Stacy, if you take your brochure, and then Greg, you take your brochure, and April, you take your brochure, and you put them on, you put them side by side, and I can almost guarantee you're going to have, first off, your bullet points are all going to be the same. Even though they're different manufacturers, they're all going to say They have, the most efficient, the best warranty, uses the least amount of salt, the best service. All the bullet points are going to be the same. There's going to be a baby somewhere. There's going to be a dog somewhere, probably that just got a bath. There's going to be a woman probably holding a child, drinking a glass of water, and looking all happy about it. Maybe there's a kid drinking water. They all have the same things in them, every single one of them, and they all say the same things. Nobody is making a decision to buy your water softener or your drinking water system based on the brochure that, with all due respect to them, a marketing person at the manufacturer sat down and threw some clip art into and threw some bullet points into, but has never actually walked into a home and tested somebody's water. That marketing person doesn't have a clue what you do for a living. And so for you to rely on that marketing person to sell your equipment is frankly lazy, to put it bluntly, and it's also what salespeople do. And many of you that have, if you've been on my webinars or my training before, I don't really like working with salespeople. I work with sales professionals, and it sets them apart. Okay, so so in terms of literature, sure, if you want to have an RO brochure or something like that down under the table that you can give somebody that you have set an appointment with, okay, have that available maybe, but mostly just have something in the booth, just a flyer that's photocopied on color paper, that's dirt cheap, that has some sort of a call to action, like a coupon on it, or bring this coupon into the office for 1 free bag of salt, or use this coupon for $200 trade-in off existing equipment, or whatever call to action you decide to do there. Have that on just the flyer, but something, 99.9999% of these things are just going to get thrown away. And so why throw away the $2 brochure? Why give that to them to just toss away? Okay. And you know what? Your little flyer is going to set itself apart because everybody else at that show is handing them the really nice, glossy, expensive literature. And so your really nice, expensive, glossy literature is going to get mixed up with all the other really nice, expensive, glossy literature. So your cheap thing is going to stand out. The business card disease. Oh, gosh. It's unbelievable how often I talk to salespeople. So how'd the show go this week? Oh, man, it was awesome. There were so many people. We were so busy. Really? How many appointments you set? Oh, I didn't set any appointments, but I must have handed out 300 business cards. Well, okay. It is true, and inevitably a salesperson will tell me this at some point. It is true that you get those calls occasionally. Yeah, I got your card at the home show last year, and I'd like to, I'm ready to have somebody come. It happens. So I'm not saying don't hand out business cards. I'm saying that if you are relying on that little bitty business card to sell equipment for you, you are going to starve, okay? Your company is not going to be happy with you. You're going to starve. The business card disease, what that means is you get stuck handing out, you gauge the success of the show based on how many business cards you handed out. No, it should be based on how many homes you got into, how many appointments you set, okay? Base it on that. And I'm going to talk to you about how to set appointments here in a second, but that's how you base it. So who should work the booth? I think definitely the sales professionals for much the same reasons as the marketing people. This is a company we worked with down in Florida, and look how engaged Steve is with these people. He got them sitting in the booth, and he's standing up in front of them doing a presentation right there in his booth. So these ladies are sitting down, and he's got their full undivided attention as he's talking about this RO. But sales professionals should work the booth, not the marketing. Look, sometimes you need people filled into the booth, and sometimes actually it's a great way for the receptionist in the office to learn what people are asking. So I'm not saying that you should not have a service technician or a receptionist or somebody in the company. I do think it's a good idea to have them go in and work the shows a little bit, but there should always be a sales professional in that booth as well, somebody that can set those appointments. How should you pay the salespeople? Well, Okay, so I'm a firm believer in a two-tiered pay structure, house versus creative. There are a lot of companies out there. Jen, there's a chat here. Let me see if I can see this. Whose was that? I can't see what it says here. Oh, I'm cutting out. So you guys can hear me? Can you hear me okay? Is everybody been saying that my internet's cutting out a little bit?
It seems to cut out every once in a while, but I don't. It could be my internet also.
Okay.
You're fine.
All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I believe in a two-tiered pay structure where you pay salespeople one percentage for a house lead and 1% for a creative lead. And a house lead is a lead that the company, it comes from advertising or the internet or Google or whatever. So I've had companies say to me often, well, then a home show lead should be a house lead. And by the argument, I mean, it makes a lot of sense from a company standpoint that it should be a house lead, okay? Because, I mean, the salespeople aren't paying for the booth. They're not paying for the time and the advertising to get in there and do all of that stuff, the material. And so based on that logic, yeah, it should be paid a house lead. It should get paid a lower commission. Okay, so here's the exception to this, and I want to tell a little story here, okay, a Twilight story. And by the way, oh yeah, I'm Team Jacob, okay? And I am not afraid to say that I was in my 40s when I read the entire Twilight series, and oh my God, they were horrible, in my opinion. But that's not the Twilight story. The Twilight story is that I was raising a young lady and my niece. I had custody of my niece, and she was reading the Twilight series and was so into them. I mean, wow, was she into them. And my ex-wife called me very concerned one time because she had heard somewhere that in the fourth Twilight book, the main character had sex. And there's a sex scene in it. And it was that appropriate for this 15-year-old girl to read it. And so I went to Krista, my niece, and I said, I need you to hold off on reading the fourth book until I want to read it and figure out the context of this. And she was very upset because she was just plowing through these books like crazy. And so I went to the bookstore and I bought the series and I read them and I looked at this is just I had been already reading them because Krista had been just plowing through, but I hadn't had a chance to get through the third book. So I finished the third book and I got the fourth book and I read the scene in question, and I mean it was just for your own sake, in case you ever want to read just in case you have a concern with your young daughter. The main character was 18, a virgin when she did this act, and was married to a vampire, to an undead dude, but whatever. I mean, the most graphic it was kind of a bitten bed knob or whatever, like a bedpost that was kind of chewed up. That was the extent of it. But anyway, the relevancy to the home show webinar here is that I had decided to give Krista the okay to read this book. So I went downstairs and to her room, and she was on her bed and she was reading a Twilight book. And I said, "What you doing?" And she goes, "I decided to reread the third book while I was waiting for you to give me permission to read the fourth book." I was like, "Oh, really?" And she showed it to me, and sure enough, here's the hardcover of the third book that she's reading. I said, "Can I see that?" And she goes, "Why?" I said, "I just want to see it." And she hands it to me, and it's the fourth book with the third book dust jacket on it. She's taken the third book and put the dust jacket on the fourth book, and she's reading the fourth book. And of course, I had to discipline her a little bit because of the rule. But then as I started thinking about it, I started thinking, I created a circumstance. This is the only book I ever remember this young lady reading. In this only series, she was so into this, and the drive on it incentivized her to break the rules. I mean, I made a rule that basically she really had no other choice internally with her maturity and everything else but to find a way to get around the rule. So I feel like I took a little, and what I should have done was said, hey, let's read this book together. Let's talk about it. Let's examine it. Let's figure it out. Let's find out why, where's the controversy. I should have been more responsible about it. And it made me realize, the reason I'm telling this story is this is when I changed the policy. I was sales manager at the time at Clearwater. And this is when I changed the policy about how we paid salespeople. Because here's what I needed to know as sales manager. I needed to know if these shows were productive, because a lot of times you do shows and you come out of them. How many appointments we get out of that show? None. How much did it cost us? $2,500. We didn't get any appointments, therefore no sales out of the show. Why are we spending $2,500 to be in the show again next year? I needed accurate information about these shows. On the other hand, I'm asking salespeople to go spend their time and work it, and work the show. And if I'm saying that they only get paid a house lead, and there's a significant percentage difference there on these shows. If we're saying they only get paid a house commission on the home show, I suspect that in a lot of instances, we are not going to set a lot of appointments from these home shows, but we're going to have in the months coming up a lot of creative leads. I mean, how do we track that? How do we're trusting the salespeople who we are incentivizing, and I'm not saying salespeople or sales professionals would be dishonest. I am saying, though, that we are incentivizing them to be dishonest if we do not, if we only pay them a house lead commission on it. And so I have to weigh the value of the information that I get out of it. Would I rather have accurate information in terms of how many appointments I got from that show, or would I rather only pay a house lead commission to the salespeople? I don't know if I explained all that right. So it sounded so much better in my head when I was putting it together. But basically, what we need to do is we have to talk about the leads that come from that show. We have to be able to have that accurate information. And I think if you're an owner or manager, you can't incentivize them to not claim it as a home show lead, but to claim it as a referral or as a creative from some other source. I think we have to have accurate information on where those leads come from. So here's a picture of a booth. April, this was your booth, in fact, if you're on. So I think that this booth is a little busy. I think there's a lot of stuff in it. I think that you could eliminate some of the things from this booth and still have it work just as effectively. But I really like this picture because there are some really excellent things in this booth as well. And I want to point some of them out in terms of what's in the booth here. Okay, so first some easy ones. These photos in the back here are pictures of actual installs. So these are pictures that they put up in little frames of actual installations. Okay, we have equipment here. I think that there's too many softeners here. I don't think that you need this many softeners. I also think that you really don't need this many reverse osmosis systems. You've got this thing. We bought this thing at. Are you guys? I'm hearing a lot of beeping going on there. Are you guys all still there? Still with me? Somebody? Jen?
We're here. We're here. I know Matt had to.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard a whole lot of beeping going on. Like there are a lot of people that jumped off there. But so we bought this thing at Big Lots. We found this on sale. Jen, do you remember how much this thing was?
Yeah, I believe I picked up for like $149 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all we did. So it looks like this is a sink. This is it's It's not actually the sink. It's a photo that's taped onto the top of this counter with the faucet right here. And then underneath the counter, they have the RO installed with a light underneath of there. I really like this for a booth. It shows that RO. Now here's what I like the biggest thing that I like about this booth is this was a big home show. Lots and lots and lots of people there. But keep in mind, all those other water treatment companies out there, they're all focusing on water softeners. Oh, water softener, water softener, water softener. This booth, I mean, when you look at the WQA stats, right, 11% of the people in the country buy water softeners. I think the last one was 78%, or it might have been 81% are buying drinking, but it's like 8 out of 10 people are buying bottled water as an alternative to the drinking water. So in my opinion is, let those other companies talk about water softeners. April was focusing, when she did this booth, on the drinking water. And that's where the focus is. So instead of doing a big giveaway, a big fancy thing, when people would walk by here, notice we have these 2 coffee pots. Love this. We had 2 coffee pots up here, $10 coffee pots from Walmart. Okay. We did have a soap. These are soap glass, so if we can talk about the soap, and we just had hard water in one, and you know, you reshake them up and you can see that. We did have a table over here where we could sit and set appointments and write stuff down. But this is the big thing. So there's tea here. Here's sweetener. There's coffee stirrers right there. But when people would walk by, and notice this is a laminated box cover of the Lipton tea. So people would walk by, and April would say, "Can I answer a question for you?" And they would say, "No, I'm good." And April would say, "Well, can I at least make you a cup of tea?" And they would say, "Sure." And April would say, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make you 2 cups of tea, and I'll let you choose which one you want." And in this pot, we had tap water right from the expo center. In this pot was reverse osmosis water. And so we have white styrofoam cups that we used. There were supplies down on the other side of this cabinet, but we had white styrofoam cups. And we would, what's this? Don't leave the tea bags out. People think it's part of the freebies. That's true. That is really true. If you leave the tea bags out, who said that? Was that April or Jen that said that? It's Jen. Yeah, that's so true. So yeah, people will just come by and grab tea bags. And you should be monitoring that anyway. But then you have 2 minutes of their undivided attention. You ask them, you know, is it? Are you familiar with reverse osmosis? Do you buy bottled water? You know, and you can begin to ask them those questions. April, are you online? Are you in a place where you can talk about that? Because I know this was your booth and you've done this. What was your response when you did this? Are you there? If I unmute you. Can you hear me, April? She might not have her mic on. But this was this is always an excellent way of getting people to stop and setting appointments on the drinking water side of things. How do you get people to stop? Well, tea, we just talked about that. I think tea is an excellent way to do it. You know, everybody loves the free samples at Costco or Sam's Club. I mean, it works. People stop for those free samples, so they'll drink the tea, especially when it's cold out. I like to do magic, you know, especially for the kids. I do little pocket magic, and you can get people in there, and you know, it's kind of fun. You get everybody laughing and having a good time, and you know, and so there's little I can teach you guys how to do some basic stuff if you're ever interested in doing that, and it's kind of fun. It makes kids will actually drag their parents to the booth. I've set lots of appointments and got lots of people talking because we got them to stop because of doing little magic shows. Giveaways, I'm not a big fan of giveaways. I've seen people give away iPads and TVs and DVD players or Blu-ray players and all of that stuff. But the thing with giveaways is I think that they have to be relevant. Well, I saw you type yes. Does that mean that you could say something? Are you back on? Oh, couldn't get the speaker on. I got you. Okay. So anyway, if you're going to give away a giveaway, I think I like that. If you're going to give away a giveaway, and it's also fun to say give away a giveaway, then I think it has to be relevant to the water treatment industry. So, for example, give away 10 bags of salt, or give away a year's free cooler rental, or something that, give away a drinking water system, something that you can, that where people are, if they sign up for it, they're going to be interested in signing up. Because otherwise what you have those professional entry people that come through with their little stickers, and they just stick them on your thing. They're not even filling out the stuff. They're just, and yeah, you might get a lot of names and phone numbers, but they're not qualified, man. They're just, you're wasting your time just getting on the phone, calling them up. And I mean, at least if you're going to get these names and addresses, make them relevant to what you do. Balloons or bubbles. I mean, balloons, you got to be careful. Some parents don't like their kids to have balloons. And if you got a helium in your balloons, that kid, if you're on aisle 400, by aisle 700, that balloon's going to be floating at the top of the pavilion somewhere, and the kid's going to be screaming, and you're going to get blamed for it. So water coolers and the bottle socks, these things, I love these. So a lot of times people will, they want their logoed bottles up. And it's all like, it says Culligan on it. Therefore, I have to, how do people not know it's not Culligan water if it doesn't say Culligan on the bottle? You have Culligan up all in the back of your booth. It says Culligan everywhere on the back of your booth. They know it's a Culligan booth. They don't need to see that 5-gallon jug that says Culligan. They assume it's Culligan water. So get you one of these little socks. They go over the top of the booth so that when people walk by and they go, oh, we should get one of those for Dad. They just told you that Dad buys bottled water. So you can ask them to, you can ask them to, is that for an office? Well, your dad, has he ever considered putting in a reverse osmosis system where you could have an unlimited supply of it? I mean, they just gave you information about what their bottled water habits are. This is a good one here. We did this. This is actually at the Iowa State Fair. Let's see if I can expand this. I don't know if I can. We did this at the Iowa State Fair last year. This was a big booth, but we got a fish tank, and actually we found this fish tank for, I think we got it for 50 bucks. And it was a big, the reason we got it for 50 bucks is because it had a leak in it. So it wasn't holding water. We got it at like Petco or something, and it was a return thing. And it had been leaking water, which is perfect for our needs. And then we started collecting plastic bottles, plastic water bottles. And we had a drawing on this to guess how many plastic bottles were in this container. And then we scheduled it up to have, we did a Facebook Live, we promoted it and scheduled a Facebook Live promotion where we gave away to people. There were like 4 people that had the closest numbers of, the closest guess. We did a Facebook Live presentation on who won the drinking water system, so that they saw that, where it was, and they posted it up on the website and everything. So, but this was, there were just these signs right here were just some bottled water statistics that we hung up with a big thing. So our focus, yes, we do have a softener here. And notice how open this booth is. Notice how little stuff there is in this booth. We set several appointments at this show, several. Even without all the equipment, we're not selling the equipment in the booth. And that takes us to the next slide. What are we selling? We are not selling equipment. Now, inevitably, when I give this presentation somewhere at a home show or something like that, somebody says, well, I sold 5 of them. I got them to sign up for things. I sold a bunch of them right there. Okay, I guess that's there, but that's not the way I really do things. I usually recommend that we do a plumbing assessment, that we test the water, that we customize what we sell. Otherwise, we're just a box store, in my opinion. I'm not saying you can't get them to commit to renting something or to setting an appointment at the show. I know that there's a few people who do that, but if you're actually going to be meeting their needs, selling them, talking to them about what their needs are, then what you should be selling at the show is not equipment, but your knowledge, your professionalism. Make them curious about what information you have, so that when they walk up to you and say to you, so what makes you different than company A over there? You say, well, are you talking the water that goes on you or the water that goes in you? Have you had your water tested? I can't tell you any. That's like walking into a car dealership and saying, how much is a car? Or what makes you better, walking into a Ford dealership and saying, what makes you better than a Chevy? Well, you can't. You have to have more information. Are they looking at are they on well water or city water? How many people in the house? How long are they going to be in the house? I'm not going to go through the bullet points and say the exact same thing that company A said. I'm going to narrow down and find out what your needs are. And eventually I'm going to make them realize that I need to be in their house to do a plumbing assessment and to test the water so that I can make a recommendation based on what their needs are, not based on what I want to sell them at the home show. So what I'm selling is my knowledge, my information, my professionalism, not my equipment. What are they paying for it with? Their time. If I can get them to spend their time, getting them to spend their money is easy. Who is my competition at these shows? It's not the other water treatment companies. It's not. It's the guy with the broom and the ShamWows and the dishes and the spine straightening thing. Those are the ones that give your potential customers a headache by the time they get to your booth. Those are the ones. Okay? What types of appointments do you set? I think every single opportunity to get into a house is a good opportunity. Activity creates productivity. Set every appointment. Somebody's got a 3-year-old softener. I can swing out there and just check it and test it and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do if you want. Why not? Okay, that person, do you think, honestly, for most people, that person, they bought a softener from your competitor 3 years ago? What are the odds that that competitor salesperson, number one, still works at that company, and number two, has ever talked to that customer in the last 3 years? Ever. Salespeople don't follow up with their customers. They don't stay in touch with them. So adopt them, take them, steal that customer. Get out there and make them yours so that when they buy the drinking water system or they refer, they say, yeah, I bought this system from company A, but I really like company B. I really wish I had bought it from company B. So that you get their referrals. Okay? Set an appointment with everybody. Yes, you go ahead.
Going back to the who is your competition, talking about the ShamWow guys and stuff like that, how do you handle when you have that neighbor who is just, or the guy across the aisle that is just so obnoxious and everybody literally runs past you because they're trying to get away? How do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you, Jen, for asking that, because you do run into that. You get those obnoxious people that are just in the way. You got to take them. They are not only annoying you. Okay, they're annoying everybody around them. You've got to go to the early. You've got to go to management about it. You be at the beginning of the show. Don't wait till the end of the show and blame that guy for not setting appointments. He may be very aggressive, but he's got a booth. And you've got to get somebody in management at that show to tame them down, because you're right. Talk to your owner or manager about it so that it can be addressed quickly. You have another suggestion, Jen?
When we were at one of the home shows, a lot of the guys just bought this lady a bunch of wine so she would sit down and shut up.
Yeah, get them done. Good. Yeah. Is that a Moti-Vitality sanctioned suggestion? I'm not sure.
No, it's just something that I saw. So.
Yeah. All right. So anybody else have any comments? The last couple minutes that we have here. Any other comments? I do. Before I forget, there's a couple things. Number one, I hope you saw earlier that I promoted WQA in Denver. Denver's going to be an amazing location, and they're doing a kind of a boot camp on the Sunday before. If you have not yet registered for the WQA National Convention, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's going to be an amazing show this year. So go to WQA.org if you have any other questions on that. And then tomorrow morning for our MV Pro call, I love it when we have guest speakers on. This is free if you're not familiar with this. We do this every week, every Thursday from 8:30 to 9 Eastern. But tomorrow we've got a home inspector coming on. This is a guy who wrote an article. His name's Riley Knox. He wrote an article in January's issue of Water Quality Products about shocking a well. But I thought it would be a really awesome conversation talk about how home inspectors. We've been trying to get a home inspector on our call for quite a while, and finally got one lined up that is going to be here. So please join us tomorrow morning at 8:30. Any other comments or thoughts on home shows?
Kelly, I do real quick. One thing too, if you have a company Facebook page, it's really cool to kind of do updates as you're there, and hey, come out and see us at booth such and such, and also do get testimonials, get somebody to, like, pictures of Kathy, because so many times you get customers that come by, oh no, we've been using your company for 20 years, we absolutely love you. Get a picture of them with, you know, the sign in the background, and, you know, John and Mary, they purchased one of our systems 10 years ago and absolutely love it. Their favorite thing that they like about our system is this. They purchase water, salt from us because of this. So, I mean, it makes it a lot of fun, and it makes it interactive. Even, you know, going live is a lot of fun too. Get your customers involved.
Hey, while you're talking here, I forgot I was going to show some other pictures of water clinics in case to give you guys some ideas. So we're at an hour here, so I'm going to blow through this just in a couple minutes. But this is one that we did. It's another one. We did this in a grocery store parking lot, and we put the banner up. They handed out flyers in every grocery bag the entire week leading up to this. They put it in grocery bags. So
hey, Kelly, go back 2 pictures. There's Foxy sitting right there.
Oh, there it is. That is right. There's Foxy. That's like, is that you?
It must be me standing with a very.
It was cold that day. We were so cold. We did not have a lot of people come that day.
We did a lot of appointments set though.
We did, yeah. Well, we were working with the local water testing lab.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was, but there's April standing there. This was a water clinic that she did in front of an appliance store, DNR Electric, that we set up and did a free water clinic that day. You know, sometimes they are successful and sometimes they are not. So this particular day, I don't think we ended up having a ton of people that day, but activity creates productivity. You know, you get out there. So this appliance store, April actually had a relationship where we did traded stuff. This is one we did in Florida, a water clinic. We did this at a John Deere location. We had banners up, so just out and about. That's the banner. You know, another example of a banner. There's Steve again. There's Steve in the booth. Here's a closer up of that the bottles that we guess how many bottles were in the fish tank. It's a closer up of that. There's another picture of a Reynolds booth.
Mark was like the king at setting appointments.
Yeah, he was. Mark was very good at doing that. Absolutely. There's April again. April, we love you. I know you can't say it back. One of our favorite MV pros ever. So there's another booth. Notice the T. So just another configuration of the T set up. This works, guys. Setting those T tests at the booth, it absolutely works. So okay. All right, thanks everybody. I really appreciate it, and if you know, please go to Moti-Vitality.com and give us feedback. There's a link right on there where you can give us feedback about the webinar and other future topics or other things you want to learn about. So, or I'll always appreciate the emails and everything too. So, thanks everybody. We will talk to you very soon. Have a great weekend and day.